California, I don't know if you guys are aware of this, is kind of stupid. Their governor looks like a serial killer. Vice President Kamala Harris was elected as a senator there, and now, unfortunately, she's inflicted on the nation as a whole. And they have ridiculous crime stories based on the fact that they have declared through the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals that everybody has a natural God-given right to camp out in the streets, be homeless, and open-air drug markets. Well, guess what? When you're a stupid state that plays stupid games, you often win stupid prizes, and that, of course, is what we're going to talk about today. An absolutely ridiculous story where a homeless, mentally ill person broke into a California home with a samurai sword and a butcher knife and decided that he was going to be the occupant of the home. Now, this is not Jank's nephew's dream of the communist revolution against the landlords. This is just another disgusting result of allowing progressive policies to run wild, and of course, it comes from Venice, California, which is not surprising if anybody's visited that area within the last 10 years.
Police say he was unarmed with a sword.
Listen, I don't want to nitpick this segment, except for the fact that I definitely do want to nitpick every aspect of this segment, but don't open it up by telling me he was unarmed with the weapon that he was armed with. No, that's not how it works. I understand that people misspeak. You could think occasionally that maybe I even misspeak on this channel, and sometimes I just leave it in and don't edit it out, but no grace shall be granted to the local news because they're showing me an image of a guy in a towel because, yes, while the police were setting up this whole SWAT team and getting ready to invade this home, this guy was casually taking a bath because, of course he was, because it's California and everything needs to be absolutely stupid.
When he eventually surrendered after hours-long standoff, you can see there, wasn't wearing much. Christy Fajardo live in Venice. Christy, it's a bit cold out for that outfit, no?
Again, I am a lover of local news. I'm a big advocate for local news. They are the same nationwide, which is goofy and totally inappropriate for the subject matter at hand. I understand that this guy ended up surrendering in a towel because he was taking a bath while the police were setting up their whole SWAT team, getting ready to infiltrate and all that. But a woman showed up to her home and a homeless person was in there armed with a sword, presumably ready to kill her because he's insane, and the state of California allows him and grants him a natural God-given constitutional right by dint of his humanity to sleep out in the open on the streets in an open-air drug market, have untreated mental illness, and this is the result. This woman was terrified, and I don't think this guy's tone is appropriate just because the guy came out in a towel.
Very cold for that outfit. In fact, he was shivering, but I can tell you it is quiet now, but for several hours throughout the day, this area was flooded with SWAT teams, police canines, even police officers.
Look, Fox 11 is not sending her best. That was not a good reading of whatever she was going to read. When you're out in the field, you have a good amount of time to prepare for what you're going to say, and she's stuttering, she's stammering, and yes, even though I said I don't want to nitpick the local news, I am nitpicking the local news because it is well deserved. I mean, I'm going to go put the smiley guy, Mr. Hair, I'm a local news anchor because my uncle got me this job guy on the screen again so you could look at him and remember that he was laughing at the fact that a woman was forced out of her home 4 hours because some whack job decided to break in.
It's all because of what you're about to see on this video. Take a look.
Get out of here.
Get out of my house.
Get out of here.
Get out of here.
Get out of here right now. You better watch it with that. Oh my God.
Marcia Davalos took out her cell phone when she found a man in her living room who insisted she was in his home. On the right of your screen, you might have been able to make out a samurai sword and a kitchen knife on an end table that did not belong to her.
Again, the tone of this story is totally wrong. This is not a fun, what a crazy mix-up kind of tale. This guy was armed with a sword. This woman came home. Presumably there's no man around. He could have hacked her up to bits. And this is all because we allow the drug-addled, mentally ill to live on the streets. So this idea that it's like, what a wacky tale. A woman came home and this guy armed with a sword was there. Isn't that goofy? Shouldn't we enjoy this segment? Totally inappropriate, totally insane. But again, as this stuff becomes more normalized, this is the reaction that the local news gives. there are people who would look at this story, there are people who would look at this video and say, wow, Sean is getting really upset. Honestly, I don't know why he isn't talking about poverty. If only we could arrest poverty, maybe this guy wouldn't need to grab a samurai sword just to threaten a woman so that he could shower in her place. Honestly, what we need is for showers to be redistributed to all the homeless people across the country, so that way we wouldn't see these people breaking in to take a shower. The fact is, a lot of people got 1, maybe 2, maybe 3 bathrooms, full showers in their place. They don't need all of that. We should redistribute the bathrooms.
On the right of your screen, you might have been able to make out a samurai sword and a kitchen knife on an end table that did not belong to her.
I mean, again, really think about this story. Really think about what actually went down. Really think about this woman and how fortunate she was to not have been home when this guy broke in. He came in with a samurai sword. He came in with a knife. Whether or not he was mentally ill is not relevant to the situation at hand. He was armed, he was dangerous, and if he genuinely believed that that was his home, he would have thought her the intruder and went out of his way to kill this woman. So she could have died, and the local news is treating this like, wow, what a goofy tale, and I can't stand it. I can't stand people watching everything burn around them and pretend like it's okay. It is not okay. Sure, you could find some humor in this after the fact, but they're the local news. This is supposed to be a straight news segment, and again, the whole tone is way off, and we're not discussing the overall problems in this area of California that are caused by a soft on crime, not enforcing laws against the homeless, allowing them to live out in the open, become more addicted to drugs, and their mental illnesses to flare up even more kind of policy. So there's nothing to this segment we're getting from the local news because they refuse to treat it with the seriousness that it actually has. Now, I know I don't have a huge portion of my members of my audience that are women, but I got dudes in my audience that know women. Imagine your girl or your mother or your sister or your whoever or yourself, if you're a woman out there, having to deal with a guy armed with a samurai sword and a butcher's knife in a state likely where it's very difficult for you to have a firearm, although California is not the worst in terms of gun control, and what you would do in that scenario, what you have to experience with this guy going through your stuff, and this being allowed to fester across your state, across your whole neighborhood. Because remember, this is just the guy that broke in. This is just the guy that came after her inside her own home with a knife, with a samurai sword. There's all of these people that are constantly on the street that you have to pass through each and every day.
The LAPD saw that video too. That's why they roped off several blocks, including a stretch of Abbot Kinney between Westminster and California. The man stayed barricaded for close to 5 hours before the LAPD used gas to get him to come out. He walked out in a towel and had apparently been taking a bath. While outside, SWAT had gathered. Police even used a robot at one point to find out where he was in the house.
Again, I'm really busting the local news balls for making this such a joke, for trying to make this a really entertaining, just flat out like what a goofy story, because there's so many good angles you could actually talk about. You know, there's a lot of people who criticize the police and they get off on that. We don't do that a ton on this channel, but here's a question. Did we really need SWAT to barricade off 4 blocks for a guy who wasn't armed with a projectile weapon inside a home? Wouldn't you be fine if you blocked off just the block or even just around the home, set up a barricade? The guy wasn't really going to go anywhere. Maybe I'll grant you 2 blocks, but did you really need the full 4 blocks of barricades? It seems like you're making this guy an even bigger convenience to the community just so you can play with your robots and send them in there, even though we all know that robot is nothing more than a sophisticated grown man version of a remote control car. Fact check me if you want, but I'm 100% right in that regard.
Davalos is grateful no one was hurt, but worries about the next homeowner.
It's just sad, you know? It's so sad that the community has to keep enduring through this kind of stuff. It, shouldn't be happening.
You know, I'm really glad that they got the homeowner in there, because if you notice, the homeowner isn't just talking about this instance that impacted her. She's talking about what the community has to go through, because again, this is an ongoing problem. Crazy stories related to the homeless, to the mentally ill, that again are given extra rights by the state of California, by the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, or the norm. And the homeowners, the people who actually live in these areas, the people who actually invest their time and resources, try to raise a family, start a business, go to work, try to get by, doing everything right, are the ones who have to deal with this. And again, look at this woman. She's not very large. She doesn't look like she's an expert in jujitsu or anything like that. And right now, she's never going to feel safe in her home again, because when she tried to enter her home, there was a man ready to kill her, armed with a samurai sword and a butcher knife that had broken in, and decided that he was going to make it her own. And this man was completely unstable, and she sees all of these unstable people, all of these mentally ill people, all of these possibly armed people on her streets in her area each and every single day, and the police have been totally disempowered, so they can't do anything about it.
It's so sad that the community has to keep enduring through this kind of stuff. It shouldn't be happening.
And again, basic statements like this, that this shouldn't be happening, that this isn't normal, should go without saying, but of course, you have to say them in the state of California, because you have a bunch of people who, by the way, are wealthy leftist homeowners who are even more wealthy than this woman, who can buy homes further away from the homeless problem than this woman can afford to buy, saying, oh, actually, honestly, it's an issue of mental illness. Actually, this guy was Aladdin. Again, if it wasn't for the fact that the super rich were hogging all the bathrooms and we redistributed bathrooms to people, then this wouldn't have happened. I mean, honestly, if it wasn't for the fact that we didn't build enough government housing somewhere, even though the government housing is a giant boondoggle full of graft and is a total scam, then this problem totally would have solved itself. It's honestly the homeowner's fault when you think about it, because she owned a home. And could you really ever own property? Isn't the issue that you treat property like a commodity? I mean, this is all a violation of property rights, and it's almost like the state has aligned with all these other interests to have a sanctioned violation of property rights. But sure, we're gonna blame the property rights, even though places in this country that have better property rights don't have these issues. But whatever, anything to avoid blaming the person actually responsible, and anything to avoid blaming the soft on crime policies that these leftists advocate for, because they can move away, because they're wealthy enough to do so, from the problems that they create.
Police say that they took the man into custody and he has been taken to a hospital to be checked out. Davalos tells us that her house had been ransacked, and also the LAPD broke several windows trying to get that gas into her home. And she tells us that she is hopeful that the new city council and the new mayor will address the problems here in Venice, because she says she would hate for this to happen to anyone else.
Whoa! Local news lady, don't start this segment giggling and then get all somber and go, police say now all of a sudden you're a straight news reporter. No, not about that. Get out of here. We saw your bad attitude. We're taking note of it. Fox 11, I am filing a formal complaint to the FCC. I'm actually not doing this. Please don't file complaints. That makes you lame. And I don't want to tolerate this woman.
Live in Venice, I'm Christy Fajardo. Let's send it back to you.
Oh, you feel so bad for her. And thankfully, he at least put the towel on. Christy Fajardo, thank you for your reporting out there tonight.
Again, I told you, they're totally ambivalent about this. This guy's like, oh, we feel so bad for her, but thankfully he put the towel on, because we would have seen his junk. And that would have been ridiculous, because one of our interns would have had to blur it. You know, the intern that I'm harassing, because I'm a real stand-up guy. I'm here at the local news. I'm totally not a big D-bag or anything like that. What is this attitude? Yo, we feel so bad for her. Not only did this guy break into her home, ransack her place, violate her space, violate the sanctity of her private property, but the LAPD actually broke some windows during the course of removing him from the property because they had to throw gas in there. So honestly, now she's stuck with the bill, because obviously the homeless insane person isn't going to have the money to cover what went down in this scenario. On top of that, if you notice, they actually said that the guy was taken to the hospital. Why was he taken to the hospital? Because he's going to be released after they do his mental health screening, give him some medication to victimize other people again. You think you're going to be held for this? An armed break-in in the state of California, in Venice? Absolutely not. They are going to ensure that he is protected, because I don't know if you guys know this, the police historically racist and historically mean to the homeless. So essentially, every single person in the story is going to face consequences and criticism, except of course for the criminal involved. And of course you have the local news guy talking about how, well, at least he put a towel on. I mean, he totally destroyed a bunch of her property and scared the life out of this woman, and he broke in and she'll never feel safe in her home again, but at least there's a towel on. Get it? Because the guy came out in a towel, and this is a silly story. Aren't we having fun? The homeless people are running amok in our city. Isn't that goofy? Isn't it silly? I'm local news guy with local news hair, catching you on Fox 11. Till next time, local news out. Anyway, that's all I really have for you guys today. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. If you like this video, then please show me by leaving a like. Subscribe for more content. Follow me on all my social medias, each and every one of them. They're all in the description. You can support me via the support links in the description box of this video. This has been me talking about a homeless person break-in and a local news that is completely out of touch. Till next time.